Conference will now be recorded.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, it went very well. We're very excited.
Baruch Hashem. Good.
Mhm.
Okay, so I mentioned I'm going to be away. I'm leaving next week on Tuesday and won't be back until Wednesday night of January 7th, I think that is. So we will resume our class the next week on that Tuesday night. It's 13th. Thank you. On the 13th. Okay. So that'll be a while. But again, please, anything that comes up, you can always WhatsApp, text, call, whatever works for you guys. Please feel free to reach out. Okay, so let's get to a good point to pause over here. And yeah, so we did Hachzara, we did Hatmana. Oh, good. So we did all that. Good. Okay, Sechita. Okay, and yeah, well, we need to give some thought to after we finish Shabbos. We're on the way to finishing Shabbos. What's the next thing that we're going to do? And I think, look, the basic topics that we do is Shabbos, Kashrut, Brachot, and Tefillah, right, and davening, right, and a lot of hashkafa along the way. What's hashkafa? Well, yeah, but hashkafa is Jewish outlook on life, right? Jewish outlook on life. So what I think we're going to do, and this is going to be a little bit of a covert operation, guys, okay? Right, so we'll keep this within our group over here, okay? And is that the next thing we'll do is kashrut, and I want to open it up to a lot of questions that come in other class I'm giving that people say, Rabbi, you should give a class on kashrut. So I said, oh, okay. So I think we're going to open it up to other community members, right? Because why should you guys know so much more than everyone else? Right? It's just not right. It's just not right. It's not fair, right? So we're going to open it up to other people also, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we'll let them in, and you guys will take it easy. Take it easy on the newbies, and not show them up, not make them feel really bad. Okay, make sure they can keep their dignity going. Okay, good. Okay, on that note, page 205. Okay, so basically we went through the heating up on Shabbos, which is the main issue. We went through on Friday afternoon. We went through Shabbos morning. Okay, so now let's go to all, and that's like as we said, that's the main of the 39 malachot. That is the one that is most challenging, most prevalent when it comes to our Shabbos preparations. Okay, the prohibition of squeezing schita, page 205. It is prohibited to extract juices from fruits or vegetables on Shabbos, both when preparing food and while eating it. Okay, for example, while eating a grapefruit, one must be careful not to intentionally squeeze the juice from it. Now, obviously, we're not talking about when you're chewing on something, right? We're not talking about when it's in your mouth, right? We're talking about prior to that. Moreover, in many cases, it's forbidden to drink juice that dribbled from a fruit on Shabbos. However, one may drink from when Shabbos is over. Okay. One may, okay, let's look at the pictures for a moment. Okay. Squeezing with a juicer, right, would be forbidden, right? Right. My grandmother used to do that. She'd make, orange juice is always from, with a half orange. Squeezing by hand, right, would also be forbidden. Okay. One may squeeze fruits and vegetables by hand, not with the utensil made for that, onto a solid food if the juice is immediately absorbed into the food. The classic example is squeezing lemon juice onto fish and aids in its preparation. The juice may not be squeezed into a liquid, squeezing lemon juice into tea. Okay? Now, this is a little bit technical why this is, but the idea is that in the Mishkan, the work that was done in the Mishkan was squeezing out, right, for dyes and things like that, from a liquid from a solid into a liquid. If it's going directly onto a solid, okay, and being absorbed, right, onto the food, right? Now, I'm not sure. Have it onto a salad. It's not being absorbed, right? So we wouldn't squeeze, right, a lemon onto a salad, onto a fish. It's getting absorbed into the fish. Now, I'm pretty sure what some people might do, if you want to put lemon into your tea, right? So if you need lemon in your tea, I don't know how many people need lemon in tea, but you feel you need lemon in your tea. So you can't squeeze it into your tea. What do you think you might be able to do? A bottle of lemon juice, right? Have someone else do the squeezing for you well in advance. That will certainly help, right? I think you could just put a slice of lemon into the tea, right? Just put a slice of lemon into the tea. I'm not squeezing it, just putting it there, and there will be some flavor that will come out, right, and spread over there, right? Now I wonder, can I squeeze it onto sugar? That's going to be adding sugar into my tea.
But then it like becomes a little bit liquidy.
So, okay, so squeezing enough that will make it liquidy, I couldn't. But if I have a heaping teaspoon of sugar and I do a couple of drops of lemon into there, I think that would fit like the fish that is going onto a solid and it's getting absorbed into that. I think that would probably be a way that something that could work. Now, where else do we have squeezing schita on Shabbos? Or where else might there be schita on Shabbos? Okay, good, right? A sponge to wash dishes. That's another example where we have schita, right? Right. Okay, so we'll come to that in a minute, right? So so when it comes to washing dishes, how do you want to do that? You want to use a Shabbos sponge. And a Shabbos sponge is either like that ball of coil of plastic, right? Or of metal, right? A scrubby they make, right? They also make Shabbos sponges that look like sponges, okay? But they don't really absorb and squeeze out, right? So those can be gotten, right? Certainly in the kosher stores and on Amazon, right? Very easy to find, right? You put in Shabbos sponges and you can get it over there. Good. So another place is washing dishes. And what did you mention, Paz?
Swimming.
Okay. So swimming, right? So there, right? In terms of squeezing out the towel or squeezing out one's garments, right? If you get soaked on the way to shul, the way back from shul, right? As tempted as one might be, right? You can't squeeze out some of the garments which might have gotten soaked. Okay, when a woman, let's say, goes to the mikvah on a Friday night, the Friday night is the mikvah night. So when she is drying herself, you do more of a gentle padding dry, right? How about the towel Friday night, after we've done Atilas Yadayim. Right. So it's not getting to the point over there that you're squeezing out from it, right? Again, a woman goes to the mikvah Friday night, so then her hair, right? So she would just pat dry the hair as opposed to, really wringing it out. Okay. Squeezing 206, squeezing pickled foods. It's permitted to squeeze the juice from pickled vegetables if one intention is to improve the vegetables and not to drink the juice. Okay, interesting. Okay, so yeah, I don't think we really do that so much. I mean, we just take the pickles out of the jar. I don't think anybody's really squeezing those pickles. Okay, but the concept is interesting, right? The schita is in order to get the liquid. Here, in the case of the pickles, it's not in order to get the liquid, it's to get rid of the liquid, right? And it should be done shortly before when one is eating the food. Okay? Milking your cows on Shabbos. Okay? The malacha of threshing, right, includes the prohibition of squeezing fruits, also includes milking cows. Person who must milk cows on Shabbos should consult a Rav regarding the permitted way to milk manually and with a milking machine. These laws involve many details. Yeah, so exactly how it's done, right? I know that a workaround that was done in some of the kibbutzim in Israel, which was not so halachically sanctioned, was like putting a piece of bread on the bottom of the pail, and that way you're going onto a solid. But that works for about the first couple of squeezes, and then after that not. Okay, there's always got to be a workaround. Okay, grinding. Okay, grinding food is prohibited on Shabbos. Crumbling, mashing, pureeing food are included in this category of grinding. Let's say for a child, right? Banana, right? So grinding is when I'm breaking it up into small pieces, right? That or avocado where it becomes just a mash, a mush, right? That would not go in the category of grinding. Also, it's only something, meaning, let's say I've got something that was made from matzah meal, right? So then, it's a natural food that's being ground up, okay? Not a cookie or a cracker or anything like that. The second one is where it becomes very relevant. Chopping or cutting vegetables or fruits into very small pieces is also considered grinding, okay? Salat, right? Israeli salad, right? Where they like to make the cucumbers and the tomatoes really small, right? It should be slightly larger than usual to avoid any possibility of this. Okay. Also applies to non-edible substances, soil, wood. Okay, all that not so relevant in our world. But cutting vegetables finely, that certainly is. Yes, Rachel.
So, I have a question, and not to throw anybody under the bus, including my team. So, like making guacamole, sorry. So, like we had on Shabbat, we had like 30 avocados that were like, taking everything out of. I've noticed that Ezra's really careful he's not like mashing the avocado, but it's not the same like solid consistency as when you first take it out.
Correct. So in those cases, like banana avocado, so one would do it with a little bit of a shinoi, a little bit of a different, right? It's not bona fide grinding, right? And therefore, with a shinoi is a slight deviation. So you do it a little bit bigger, right? Or use the back of something instead of the normal manner of doing it. It would be the best way to do that. Okay. Snow and ice. Hi, I'm going to be in Maryland at the end of December. Yeah. You get into a rental car over there, and you got the ice pick in the back. So, oh gosh, I don't want to go back to this. Okay. One may not chop ice or crush snow on Shabbos to cause it to melt, right? However, one may put ice cubes into water or other drinks despite the fact that they will melt, as we said before, because that's just going to go into the liquid. It won't be anything discernible, right? We spoke last time you guys brought up the question about making ice on Shabbos, right? And so we said, right, well, you don't want to do it for preparing for after Shabbos in general, right? But to do it for Shabbos would be okay. Yeah. Okay, the prohibition of mixing or kneading, right? That's prohibited on Shabbos. That certainly is one of the final steps of the bread that we make, right? This malacha includes mixing a food with a drink or a solid with a liquid so that one substance is formed. It is prohibited to knead water with flour, water with dust or cement, honey or oil with various foods. Okay, if a liquid with solid particles combine into a mixture by themselves, even without kneading or mixing, one may not pour one onto the other. Okay, so how about what was it called? Gosh, it's been a long time since my kids were drinking chocolate milk.
Formula?
Oh, well, so formula, 1 second, we'll come to that. But how about Nesquik? Nesquik, that's what it's called, right? So would that be an issue, or iced tea mix? Would that be an issue? No, because it's not becoming this thick mixture, right? Formula all
Liquid, it's okay.
correct. That would not be right. Kneading is right that this one semi-solid substance is formed. Okay, formula would not be an issue. But how about making oatmeal on Shabbos?
That becomes like a.
Right. So that might be an issue, right? Right. Would it be an issue of bishul, of cooking?
Well, it could be.
Well,
if
it
it's-
could
Well,
be
the
if
oats,
the
the oats
water-
are
yeah.
pretty much raw, right? So what would be the workaround for that? Well, if you make it before Shabbos, that's always good. If I want to make it on Shabbos,
Use instant oatmeal, the one that's already cooked.
okay, instant oatmeal that's cooked already.
But yeah, don't you?
Don't you
have
soak in hot water?
You need hot water, but if it's cooked already, it's cooked.
Or-
It's a
but
solid,
Yeah. from the urn.
right? Ein bishul achar bishul, right? So you have to take hot water from the urn, right? Otherwise, right, you can't take it from your faucet, right? That we know.
Third vessel.
How about a kli shlishi, a third vessel, right? Right, a kli shlishi. That's our almost magic workaround. It doesn't cook, right? It's not considered bishul, but that it would seem that would be a problem, or it could be a problem of this lush of need of kneading of lisha.
If you get the instant. But like, I feel like adding the hot water will.
I'm not really of that.
Not if there are, because instant oatmeal's already cooked, it's like instant coffee or.
Right, instant coffee. It's cooked already, right? So it's not a problem cooking it
So
again.
with the cliche
Kli
and instant,
s- s- s-
cliche, sorry.
kli shlishi or pre-cooked will not be an issue of bishul. But I'm saying is it might be an issue of lush, of lisha, of kneading over here. Yeah,
Because it becomes like that.
yeah. You're taking a solid. It's like dough and water becoming this homogeneous, thick, pasty sort of mixture consistency. Yeah.
So
If
now
you have it
oatmeal,
clumpy, but what if it's
Water,
like liquid.
liquidy. Yeah. Yeah.
That does sound pretty nasty.
Yeah.
Robert, so what is
Defeats the
answer
purpose of
oatmeal?
oatmeal.
Would you have to do like overnight oats? But
I'm not sure. It would. I'll look into it. It would seem that probably would be an issue. Yeah. If overnight oats, right? If you did it before Shabbos, so then
Yeah.
you're gold. Okay. Well, maybe this next thing will help. Just one sec. Yeah.
What if you have overnight oats and they're too, like you need to add some milk in there? Can you add milk and mix it?
So if it's turned into this thick, if it's overly thick, and now you're adding a liquid, and that's going to mix up, then that might go into this lush category. Yeah, into kneading. Yeah.
What is this called? Lunch?
Yeah. Lamed shin, lush. Okay. 2:11, one may not make a mixture on Shabbos whether the mixture is soft or hard. A soft mixture is defined as a fluid mixture which can be poured from one vessel to another. Interesting. Okay, so they're saying that shoko, you see on the bottom there, the picture? Shoko is the Israeli version of Nesquik, right? Changing the way one, right, mixing with a finger. Okay, let's see. There are situations when it is permitted to form a soft mixture on Shabbos if one changes the way the mixture is formed. The change must entail the order in which the materials are mixed together and the way the mixing is done. Mixing the materials with the fingers out of a spoon or by shaking the vessel, right? And also it's saying changing the order. So interesting,
Put it
right?
in the act.
Right. So normally with Nesquik or with iced tea mix, what goes first, the water or the milk, and then the mix? Is there one
Pour
set
the
way?
Powder in the
I think it
liquid.
Yeah, usually you pour the water.
Yeah.
I think you start with the water.
Start with the liquid, and right? So
Yeah.
then one would try, one would reverse the order over
And then
here.
reverse stir it or something
Uh,
on the opposite of the spoon.
Use your
You
other
know?
hand with a knife.
Yeah. Use it with, and then put the knife upside down, so it's not the actual knife.
No,
It's
you
the
don't
other.
like this.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
That could be dangerous.
And that's a whole other thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Then you're, yeah, okay.
I guess you can put it into a container and shake it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That could work. Yeah.
I have a question, but I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. So this is reminding me of the question of like, can you add hot water into the cholent? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
But why can you do that, but not the oatmeal? Is it because it's fully cooked?
There it's fully cooked. Well, so you're making a good point,
About
right?
kneading.
Because there are two issues. There's an issue of bishul, of cooking, and an issue of lush, of kneading, right? So I would not add water into the cholent and then start stirring it up. But I'm just adding it in, I'm pouring it in, and then with your finger now, right? As long as I'm not stirring it up afterwards, right? So that's why it wouldn't be. I'm not doing an act of mixing, of kneading.
So the
Well, it's like
difference is that
it's getting
you don't mix.
Correct. In the case of the cholent. What was that?
That was the question. It was just like the water already has to be like hot water.
a crucial issue.
I mean, don't and Shabbos and the rest of practice.
Oh yeah, your team's on this week.
Some of these things-
I love Alan's cholent. Yeah.
Do you ever notice yourself doing some of these things not on Shabbos, like just out of habit of doing things a certain way on Shabbos?
Not really.
Okay. Sometimes I catch myself.
Oh, yeah?
trying to, like, make sure I'm not tearing, and I'm like, oh,
Gotta take a deep breath, Melissa.
I know.
It's okay. It's a weekday.
Seriously.
Okay. Okay, let's continue, guys. Prohibition of pickling. Right? You can't pickle things on Shabbos. Why? Right? That's soaking them in vinegar, brine. Why can't you do that on Shabbos? No, there's no dyeing when it comes to there's no coloring and dyeing when it comes to food. Right? That's why the chocolate milk, all that won't be an issue of dyeing. Well, that'll be preparing for after Shabbos. Right? So one may not salt vegetables which are customarily pickled, onions, radishes, cucumbers, however. If immediately after salting vegetable, one adds oil or salad, then they may be salted. One may also salt each individual piece of vegetable just before one eats it. Okay, I don't think we're doing too much of this, right? Salting something before you want to eat it, perfectly fine. 213, trumos and masros on Shabbos. What are trumos and masros? You Americans. Okay, so in Israel, you have to tithe all of your produce. Whatever grows in Israel must be tithed. Some of it is truma and it goes to the Kohen. Some of it is maaser and it goes to the Levi. Nowadays, we don't have established who's a Kohen, who's a Levi, so we don't actually distribute these things, right? Well, let me give you a good example. When you guys are baking challah, what do you have to do? Separate some. And what do you do with that? You burn it, right? You can burn it. Why are you separating that? What's that about?
That is one of the women's mitzvahs.
Correct. It's one of we'd say the three women mitzvot, which would be candles, challah, and family purity. Okay, but what is that mitzvah? Yes, it is a woman's mitzvah. What is that mitzvah?
We give it to, we're doing it because it's like a representation of like when the temple was here, and we give it
To the Kohanim.
right.
The Kohanim, right? That tribe, Kohen Leviim, did not get a portion of land. Okay, they were spread out amongst all the other tribes, and it was the responsibility of the other tribes to support them. They were the spiritual leaders; they need to be supported. So truma would go to the Kohen. That's one of the things that would go to the Kohen, which is 2% of the produce would go to the Kohen. When doing bread, right? So then some of that would have to go to the Kohen. That's called the challah that would go to the Kohen. The reason we burn it now is because nowadays we don't know who's really a Kohen. And if we know that he's a Kohen, he's got his documentation of lineage going back to the temple, we know who's a Kohen, but nevertheless, they're all in a state of ritual impurity. And a state of ritual impurity that's simply going to the mikvah does not solve, does not purify. Therefore, no one's allowed to eat that. Therefore, we burn it to make sure that no one mistakenly goes ahead and eats it. In Israel, right, from all the produce, so it doesn't go to the Kohen, right? But if it's untithed, then you're not allowed to eat that, right? So I have to take off the tithes and then do whatever I'll do with it, but I can't eat untithed produce. So what I do with the tithes is another question, another issue. But I've got to take off the tithes in order to allow this to be eaten by anyone. Okay, so that's the truma and masrot. That's why in Israel, right? If you go to Machane Yehuda and go to any of these fruit and vegetable markets, you'll see the different stands will have a kashrut certificate hanging in front. Right? Now we go to Wholesome Choice. I don't need a kashrut certificate to buy oranges, apples, bananas, fruits, vegetables, anything like that. Right? So what's the issue? No, the kashrut certificate will say that yes, it's under supervision and everything has been properly tithed. Right? And if we had a bottle here of wine that comes from Israel, in the kashrut, it would say all truma, maaser, all of these different tithes have been accounted for, right? There's also orla. Orla is the first 3 years of a tree. You can't utilize its fruit. Yeah.
How about
You can give it away.
I'm sorry.
the
Shviat, Shemitah. Yeah. Now sometimes they translate this in a little awkward way, right? And that is because Orla can mean the first years of a fruit. Orla, in terms of circumcision, also means the foreskin, right? So when you see something about the foreskin written on the back of a bottle of wine, don't get nervous. It's just a pretty distasteful mistranslation. Okay. The Orla in Hebrew is talking about the first 3 years of the fruit tree. Nothing to do with circumcision. Okay. You'll pardon me on that one. Okay. So now one can't take off the Trumot and Maasrot on Shabbos. Right? Right. The reason being, right, because, well, let's see what it says. It's prohibited to separate Trumot on Shabbos from fruits, vegetables, and other foods, unless one made a special stipulation beforehand. Okay, you also don't separate the challah from the dough. Why? Because that is what's called like tikkun kli. That is what's bringing this to the point of usability. Okay, so in Israel this applies, right? But again, typically what we do is in Israel you're buying from a place that everything's been taken off of beforehand. A very, very interesting little tidbit that someone shared with me. So Tenuva is a big company in Israel. There's all the dairy and also all the fruits and vegetables. So they're taking off truma, right, for the Kohanim, right? But you can't go to a Kohen, right? So that's a serious waste of food, right? So give it to the poor people. Well, that's feeding them non-kosher because they're not allowed to eat that, right? So what do they do with that? What I heard is now a Kohen is allowed to eat it if he's tahor, if he's pure. His family's allowed to eat it if they're pure. His animals are allowed to eat grains that are given as truma, right? And animals can't be tahor, can't be pure, so there's no issue over there. So they made, as I heard, they made Kohanim the owners of the biblical zoo. And that way, all of that produce can then go to the rhinos and the hippos that eat quite a lot of produce on a daily basis. So that was a classic Jewish workaround that they had over there. Okay, very relevant to us, those page 214. Okay, opening cans, bottles, and other food wrappings. When opening bags, cans of food on the Shabbos, one must be careful of many details. Number one, bags open in a way that they do not become a kli, a receptacle. A hole may not be made in a can or a box, which permits the contents to be poured out, because that's going to turn that into a receptacle. We mentioned cans of tuna. So how do you get around? What's the workaround for that? Hole in the bottom, right? If you have one of those caps, let's say a bottle of wine, not a very fancy bottle of wine, which has a metal screw top on it, right? So first puncture it and then take it off. Otherwise, you're creating a kli. Bottles with unopened screw-on caps may not be opened on Shabbos. If this will cause a metal ring to be torn off the bottle top, I gave you a workaround for that. Packages that are knotted closed may not be untied, right? Because if it's knotted closed, instead you would have to cut through it. It is best to open cans, food wrappings, bottles, like cereal boxes, all this for Shabbos, since opening on Shabbos might entail halachic transgression. Okay? So that's something to do in advance. Yes, Rachel.
So, I never had this really answered for me before. If we can't tie or untie, but also I thought one of the malachot was to not cut either.
Okay.
Or tear, then why is one okay?
Okay. So tying and untying a permanent knot, right? We're talking about a permanent knot, okay? So that is one of the 39 malachot, okay? And that is a constructive act. When I'm cutting, in order to cut something in a constructive manner, my floss, for example, the right length, toilet paper, the right amount of squares, whatever it is, that is a problem because that is a constructive act. If I'm tearing open the bag, so that is a destructive act. Even though now I'm able to access the contents, which is a positive thing, that's what I want, but there's no issue in accessing contents. The only issue is in the tearing. So the tearing itself is a destructive, non-constructive act, and therefore that would be allowed. Okay, on Shabbos, it's melechet machashevet. It's when it is a positive act that's being done that is a problem on Shabbos. Okay. Okay. Just a second. 266. Okay. 215, not to erase letters. Wrappers, lids of boxes which bear written symbols, drawings, or letters must not be torn or open if this will tear the writing. So it's not only words, it's also symbols or drawings. Similarly, raised letters or pictures on those, or those depressed onto lids or packages, may not be crushed or defaced. Sometimes eggshells, salamis, and oranges are imprinted with letters and numbers. Okay, we want to be careful not to cut the symbols. Okay, let's jump to page 266, guys. Okay, and yeah, actually it says see chapter 3 for more details. That's a typo. It should say see chapter 8 for more details. So if you have your own book, or if you have one of my books, I just cross out. You see where it says in the first on 215, it says see chapter 3. Make that chapter 8. Back on 215, the top paragraph in the parentheses. See chapter 3 for more details. Make that chapter 8, and you could write.
Chapter 8.
Yeah, and you could write page 266. Make it a little bit easier for you. So let's take a look over there. Right, erasing any kind of writing is prohibited on Shabbos. Okay, if wax or grease dripped on written letters, we can't scrape it off on Shabbos. Okay. One may not break or cut the edible letters and words on cakes or other foods. Okay. So that's why now all the kosher bakeries, when they want to write happy birthday Trishi on the cake, instead of writing on the cake, what do? On a big piece of chocolate. Lift off the chocolate, cut the cake. Okay. The Mishnah Berurah, however, permits cutting of food onto which letters were raised or pressed as long as they are not from a different substance, right? Whereas in the picture over there on page 266, you see over there, you've got those crackers that say the word matok on it. What does matok mean? Not you, Paz. What does matok mean? Well, if someone calls you matik, right? That means sweetie. Matok is sweet, okay? So the crackers here say matok, right? So that's not a problem because it's not written on there with frosting, anything like that. That's just part of the material of the cracker. Okay, come back to where we were in 215. Okay, let's go to, okay,
So I have a quick question.
yes.
You had said for the bottle of wine, you would put a hole on the cap.
Yeah.
So what if it's a cork? Because I see over here some is a cork. but
Yeah.
it's for the letters.
Okay, so is the cork the letters issue?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can you open
Okay.
the bottle of wine?
Okay, so typically there's nothing written on the top of the cork, is there?
Usually no, but sometimes they may, there may be
Okay.
a symbol.
Yeah, I think it could be.
Okay, so removing a cork from the bottle is not a problem at all on Shabbos. Right? It's not. It's a problem. I promise doing it. I was not very good at it, so it is a problem doing it. But it's not a halachic Shabbos problem in doing it. Why? Why is there no problem? Okay, so the fact that I'm going to use it for a mitzvah is not going to help. What? Well, there is no problem. What is the problem? So the thing's in the way. So I'm removing it. It was a cork. I take it out. It's still a cork, right? You know, it's like opening up a jar, right? Let's say the jar is vacuum packed. Okay. There was a jar. There was a cover, and it's on, and I'm taking it off, right? It's like opening the door of a house to walk in. Not a problem, right? So over there, the thing's in the way, right? I'm getting it out of the way, right? So that would not be an issue. The only issue, perhaps, is that what they're saying over here, right? If there's a, maybe that's what they're trying to say.
You're not really doing the word or even the letter though, because you would just be sticking like a hole
All right.
directly.
The only thing you can't do
We're
is
not
use an electric.
erasing.
But how come we need to make a hole?
Correct. Correct.
Gotta be-
Right? An electric cork remover, right, will certainly be an issue.
You guys understand on the cork.
But you can't break like an egg or something. Sometimes you know how like on the eggs they'll have like a.
Okay. Okay.
Like we really cook eggs on Shabbos.
Right. No, but let's say I've got some hard-boiled eggs.
Right. On the tamid, you have some spartic.
Okay. Okay. So if the eggs have something stamped on it,
Right.
you want to try to break it, not over there, right?
Kinda
And
hard to do.
huh? Yeah.
You know, I think maybe, I think that you're not what you're maybe like she's maybe stuck on a little. So like, I know that there's like certain peanut butter jars, right? That have, it's the plastic lid that you would screw off, but there's also like that other piece of plastic. It's
Yeah.
almost like the soda one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would maybe be problematic, right? Because if I'm thinking like of the soda, the reason why you wouldn't take the soda lid off without either puncturing it or just having pre-opened it, right? Is because you're breaking then that the plastic away from plastic.
But 1 second. You talking about let's say on a hummus like that, you take off the plastic cover and then there's the plastic wrapping on top.
No, I'm talking about like the lid that has like on a soda.
Or like on a water bottle, the rim.
Yeah, the rim.
The rim of like
Oh, the plastic.
Like
the
the
plastic.
water
Connected
bottle?
to the.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to, okay, so 2 things here. The soda can where you do a little thing like that and it just opens up. So that's not considered making. Not that
Not
one.
that one. I'm talking about like a bottle, not a can.
Oh, like the rim.
Oh,
rim.
a regular soda bottle.
Yeah. Regular.
Oh, okay, good. So there are those people. No, there are some opinions that say you shouldn't open up bottles of soda on Shabbos because again, it breaks off. It's making it into right? I do, and the reason that I do, and that those that say that you can do, is that that was an existing cap beforehand. You're not making it into a cap. It was a cap, and it got twisted on this way. And when you take it off that way, it breaks off, and then and then it works. So that was an existing cap. Whereas by a bottle of wine, it was a disc that got then flattened on top. It was not an existing cap that got screwed on. It was a disc, as far as I understand. The processing is a disc that got then pressed on, and that becomes the cap. So it was never an existing cap until you break it off, and now it is a standalone cap, right? Which is not the case with our soda bottles.
You can open
Yeah.
bottle of wine,
Yeah.
switch up and put a hole
Uh,
before you do it.
Right? If you have a bottle of wine that's non-cork that has, you don't see those so much
Yeah.
anymore.
Unless they're,
every single one.
Yeah, the springtime?
It's good. It's the Sarah B little.
Oh, that's right,
The sweet
yeah.
Moscato, whatever. It's yum. But
Oh yeah?
you have to poke a hole in
What does it cost over there? It's a good price of that?
it. It's like $6.99.
Unless you're opening it up, obviously before Shabbos.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're like,
We usually try to, but
Yeah.
sometimes.
Usually
It's
kosher
better
wines are, that's good. Yeah.
It's the only one at Trader Joe's, I think, that's kosher.
It's
Oh,
like
no,
sweet.
it's more just than
Uh-huh.
stop
You're not-
carrying it.
It's like meant for
It's
like
like- it's like-
dessert.
You know, it's like yayin l'kiddush.
Yeah.
It means if you're not making kiddush,
Yeah. Everybody has that.
no point in having it. It's only miyuchad l'kiddush.
Yeah.
If you're not chayav kiddush,
100%.
okay. Okay, the next thing is a longer one. Okay, guys, we're gonna call it over here. Okay, I apologize for my lateness. I had a little meeting and then I totally blanked. And they said, Rabbi, you have a class? And I said,
Can we have,
oh no.
give us something to do over the
To think about, too.
homework.
Something regarding Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's take another couple of minutes. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, everybody all ready for Hanukkah?
We did a class at Lunch and Learn.
That's true. We did a lunch and learn. Yeah. And we're continuing that on Thursday again. Okay. But well, yeah. Hanukkah, it always hits me how, you have all the blaring lights, the flashing lights. And then we have our little penetrating Hanukkah light that we have. It's not all the bling. It's not all the blare, right? But it's just that steady, penetrating light, and that's kind of who we are, and that's how we've made it to where we are today in history, with that steady light that went on, right? And the miracle of the war that we needed. The miracle of the candles of the oil, actually, that we didn't need. Meaning that first of all, the halacha is that if everyone is tamei, then it could be lit with using tamei, using impure, right, oils. Furthermore, right, the menorah had not been lit for quite a long time. Right, at that point, tens of years, if not more than 100 years, right? So had it been 100 years and 8 days, right? Well, first of all, so 8 days, miracle, enough for one day, it lasted for 8 days. What did they do on the 9th day? I love that question. Right, what did they do on the 9th day? So there are two basic approaches what they did on the 9th day. Either the oil, pure oil, was a 4-day trip away. So they were able to travel there, bring it back. On day 9, they're ready to go. Or the purification process of a person who became in contact with a body, right, is a 7-day process. So therefore, they went through the 7-day process. On the 8th day, they can make the new oil. On day 9, they were ready to go. So that's on the back end. But on the front end, right? On the front end, right? So why do they need that miracle? Okay, so sanctify the temple, and on day 9 you'll start lighting the Chanukiah, right? That miracle that they found this one flask and it burned for 8 days was a heavenly hug. It was a heavenly hug. It was God showing, I want you, I want your avoda, I want your service. I'm here with you, right? And that's what that is. And each of us in our life, we have to always be looking for those heavenly hugs. There are a lot of heavenly hugs we have in life, right? I would say, what's brought each of you, right, to this point in your journey, right, has been a series of heavenly hugs that you've gotten along the way, and to have your hearts and minds open to that, and feel that, and to feel that love. And this was a time of the Jews standing up against assimilation, because that's what it was with the Greeks. That's what it was. It was the Hellenization, and it was our standing up against that and saying we want to be true to who we are, right, against all odds. And that means that every year at this time, right, as we discussed on the Thursday class, every year at this time, it's that same energy that comes back. That's why it became a holiday, right? So this is a time for us to feel the pride, to feel the strength, and with all the stuff going on in the world around, to have our heads high, and to move forward proudly with who we are. Okay, guys, and ideally to light oil, because that's how the miracle took place. Otherwise, we could just use candles, right? If you're getting those little Hanukkah candles, those nice decorative ones, right? So then the only issue you run into is on Friday night, because it needs to burn half hour into the night, okay? But you have to light it 18 minutes before Shabbos candles. So it's got to burn for a long time. So there you would use either the thicker Shabbos candles. If you don't have, or if those won't fit into your Chanukiah, you just take tea lights and line them up. You don't need a Chanukiah. It's a nice way to do it. You don't need that. So you can just line up tea lights, for whatever night that will be, right? Sunday night, Monday.
Like electric ones?
No.
Yeah.
Those like we have in the back of the shul over here. Those tea lights, right?
Oh.
Right? Yeah. So, well, the first night is Sunday night, so Friday night will be the 5th night, right?
I was
Sixth.
looking at menorahs online, and Logan, who's my 8-year-old, he's like, "Oh, that's not a kosher." I was like, "Oh."
Okay. Yeah.
They're teaching me.
Yeah. So menorahs, you want it to be one straight row,
Yeah.
right? That's what you want it to be. Yeah. But so you can just line up the tea lights, and you're good to go, and have one off to the side as you are shamish.
Oh, so like the ones that are all over the place with like decorative.
Decorative is fine,
Yeah.
but it should be the same height in a row, right? It shouldn't
We
be.
don't have that. Yeah.
I wanted to
No,
ask,
like
we had
we-
like multiple. Is it okay to light multiple?
You don't need to.
But like if you want to.
You could, but the mitzvah is that the two of you would have them. Yeah, especially a Sephardic custom. It's one per household.
And what if we have guests over? They also can light with us to share one?
So a Sephardic custom is that one per house. Yeah. The Ashkenazic custom is everyone lights, but the Sephardic custom is one per house. Yeah. All right, guys. Good. Okay. Good night, everybody. You all shall.
Yes, it's in there. I have a question.